What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, no hate. Before I get into what I really personally want to say myself, I want you guys to take a listen. And of course, this is after the fight. Uh, Dan Raphael had something to say. And this is from his home or office or whatever, not ringside or anything like that. So this is after everything has set in. We've had all the back and forth of what everybody thinks about the fight. So just listen to what he had to say.
This is Lewis on for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and William Hill. Delighted today to be joined once again with Dan Raphael. Mate, it's been a massive week or so that's just gone, especially in sort of your side of the pond of boxing. How's things, mate? How you been?
I've been busy. There's been a lot going on, as you mentioned, so it's good. It's good when you're busy.
100% more sort of. First starting off, we just saw Devin Haney defend, I'll put that in quotation marks, his undisputed lightweight title against Vasily Lomachenko. First of all, taking away the scorecards from the fight, what you thought from the fight, or what you thought about the scoring, how did you think the fight went? How's your assessment of it? A very skilled one.
Well, I certainly don't put quote marks around it because he did defend the title. He retained the title. He got a legitimate victory, in my opinion. I've said this before. I don't quite understand the craziness about the supposed controversy. I don't think it's controversial. I think that he won a very close fight. Now, I personally scored the fight a draw. I'm not the only one. I saw a number of people that had similar scores in terms of the overall score as well as the round by round. So to me, if you have a fight where unbiased people that don't have a dog in the fight that just scored it honestly, how they saw it and had it a draw, that seems reasonable to me. If you thought that Lomachenko won the fight in a close call, if you think that Haney won the fight in a close call, no problem. And here's the other thing about it. Because there were so many close rounds, Lewis, in that fight, that if you come up with 8-4 either way, it's not out of the realm either because there are so many close rounds. That means you kind of can go either way on those rounds. And you're not going to score, 5 rounds in a row, 10-10. You're going to make the tough decision to give it to one guy or the other. And if you're seeing, if there's something that one particular fighter is doing that appeals to your senses of how you score a fight, you may give those rounds to the one guy and come up with an 8-4 card. Doesn't mean it's not a close fight. So I think the reason that people get upset about the 8-4 that the judge Dave Moretti put in, I don't think it's necessarily because it was 8 rounds to 4 and they thought there was no way that you could give Haney 8 rounds. You could absolutely give Haney 8 rounds the same way you probably could give Lomachenko 8 rounds. The problem is when you examine the round by round, how he arrived at 8-4, and you see that he gave the 10th round to Devin Haney, which was one of the 2 most dominating rounds that Loma had in the fight, which was 10 and 11. Clear as day. Really, in my opinion, the 2 most dominating rounds in the entire 12-round fight. That makes you question that scorecard because it's hard to understand how, especially a judge as experienced as Dave Moretti, who's been so good for so long, could give that round. That would make you call into question the overall card. But I thought it was a terrific fight, high skill, good entertainment value, a great crowd. I reported on the pay-per-view numbers in the United States did about, what a lot of people predicted, maybe a little bit better. And so I thought it was a good event. And I think that in the end, Lomachenko and his whole team, they're just a bunch of sore losers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting sort of set.
And those are the words of a white man. Listen, let me just say my piece on that and move on. What I said before, pretty much he summed it up in a nutshell. I felt like Devin Haney, the rounds that he won, he edged those rounds out. Where I felt like, okay, that was a Haney round. He edged it out. The rounds that Lomachenko won, he clearly won. And therefore, scoring it back and forth. And like me, look, I wanted Haney to win. But if I honestly thought Haney thought he lost, I would have said, yeah, I thought he lost. He said he had it scored a draw. But that's what I'm saying. When you clearly win a round, it's going to stand out more than the person edging out a round. People that just want to say, oh no, Loma won, I don't care what nobody say. And that basically just doesn't matter anyway, okay? Because what happened happened, and the judges scored it the way they scored it. But that, and I can understand what he's saying. That point of how can you give the 10th round, to Shakur Stevenson or the 11th round? I thought that definitely Loma won 10 and 11, and Shakur won the last one. So yeah, the fact that they scored those rounds, which was two of the most dominant rounds by Lomachenko, they're overlooking everything else, and their mind just forgets this. Everything else that happens is no, we're focusing on that. So yeah, and for the record, Dave Moretti has scored horrible fights in the past. There's times I remember him scoring fights where it was like, nah, okay, this wasn't a fight. Regardless, he wasn't the only judge there, okay, but this is not a fight where I felt like it was some damn robbery. I just plain and simple. It's just like Derek Chisora losing the fight, and they're like, yeah, but he always lose dog fights. Like the fights are always close, but he loses, right? But people just keep cheering for the guy and wanting to see him finally win, right? He finally did that when he fought against Pulev. But at the end of the day, y'all heard that, right? And all I'm saying is, that's the kind of logic and reason that people, they're not paying attention to the whole fight. They're paying attention to when their guy looked better. His best rounds, and then, oh, he won every round. He won every round. Nobody knows what they're talking about. They just hate Loma, blah, blah, blah. And the story, that's childish. Now, what I want to personally talk about, and I came across this morning. I wasn't even going to talk about this, okay? What I personally want to talk about real quick was this. I saw some tweets going back and forth between Devin Haney and Regis Prograde. So, therefore, Regis Prograde and Devin Haney may wind up, being his first fight at 140 if and when he decides to go to 140. Look, how soon that happens, I don't know. One of the tweets, Devin Haney said to Regis, just for the record, I called Eddie. Eddie didn't call me. So apparently Eddie Hearn reached out to Regis Prograde about a possible future fight with Devin Haney. So, that being said, does he fight a Tank Davis or fight a Shakur Stevenson first? That's probably why, after the fight, Devin Haney, didn't stick around to talk to Shakur. He didn't have to. But, Shakur wanted to be an opportunist, jump in the ring, and then start to call him out. And, I'm the mandatory, this, that, whatever may go on. Because what happens in boxing is, once a person says something, it's like it's supposed to happen because somebody said it. Oh, he called you out. You're not responding. And it doesn't just go that way. Now the fact that he's his mandatory, yeah. But he knows, Devin knows that if anything, Shakur would have tried to use a whole, oh, he's ducking me, I got in the ring. And once somebody gets in the ring and make it official to the world that they feel they want that fight or they're next in line or whatever it may be, and then it doesn't happen, then you start hearing this guy ducked this guy. He didn't do this, he didn't do that. So it is what it is. Basically, if you remember, when Devin, Devin didn't have to talk to him. It's not like, oh, just because he got in the ring, well, I have to stick around. No, and it wasn't, Devin, it wasn't Shakur's night. I feel like, let these guys have their moment. He just won. Now, yeah, fighters do get in the ring to approach each other or ringside or whatever. You get all of that. But again, he knows what people are going to try to do. And he knows what Shakur was trying to do. And if you catch it, you saw him trying to give him a little tough look. Then you seen him smile at Devin Haney. So Devin Haney, as he's walking out, kind of smiled at Shakur. And he said, I'm the man in this division. And, Shakur told him, for now. And Shakur is starting to get a lot of flack right now. And, I'll say this about Shakur. And I know why people, they're saying the same things that I've been saying, this past week. Shakur is trying to play to the crowd of people that have a strong fan base. and he praised them like Tyson Fury, like Bam Bam, like Canelo, like Lomachenko. Everybody that I just named, you want to know what they all have in common? None of those guys go out their way to say anything about Shakur Stevenson. None of those guys bring his name up. Yo, salute to Shakur Stevenson, one of the best pound for pound fighters out there. Nothing. They don't bring up Shakur Stevenson's name. They don't jump on interviews bringing up his name and saluting him and shouting him out and talking about how he's the future world champion. You don't hear them doing that about him. That's what he does. And also, the reason that people are getting irritated with him is because they know he's just basically ass kissing, because he feel like if he talk good about Tyson Fury, UK fans will be on his side. If he talks good about Canelo, Mexican fans will be on his side. Same with Bam Bam. Same with Lomachenko. I talk good about these guys, their countrymen are going to be behind me. No, that's not how that's going to happen. And best case scenario is if you're fighting, because I don't see two Americans fighting on the Mexican card. I don't see that, like as some main event or whatever, or even still. So the most might happen is they may cheer more for the one they like better in that fight, but you won't be getting cheers over somebody that's the same nationality as that country that you're fighting in. And if you're fighting in America and it's a majority, Mexicans in the crowd or Puerto Ricans in the crowd or whoever, they're not going to be cheering for you over their countrymen. Now, you might have some people that, have, favorite fighters that just not happen to be their countrymen, but as a whole, hell no, you're not getting that. Now, and that's what it is. So it's like, aside from Terrence Crawford, why do you only you don't shout out any other black fighters? You don't talk good about any other black fighters on a level where you're giving them that same type of praise. It's something about black fighters, and I'm saying it, and I'm black, and I'm saying it. It's something about black people in general where we just love to shit on each other. And it's like, even though you could have a Mount Rushmore, right? And all of you guys are black. All of you guys are doing the same thing, same weight class, same sport, whatever. Somehow y'all find a way to just try to shit on the other, but praise anybody else that's not black. That's just something you see black people doing, period. So yeah, people are starting to get tired of Shakur, that bullshit. And I'm reading and hearing a lot of different things being said about Shakur, because you sitting up here doing all this praising these fighters who don't even acknowledge you. And that's a fucking fact. And you can go from video to video. None of these guys bring his name up. The most that can happen is if somebody the interviewer may bring another fighter's name up and then they'll say their piece. But other than that, none of these guys are saying nothing about Shakur. And if they did respond to something, it will be short and right to the point, over with. In fact, here's the crazy thing. I didn't even know this, right? I was looking at something with Shakur, and in the algorithms, like, there's a video of Shakur sitting on his couch. And I didn't watch the whole video. It's a long-ass video. Come to find out, this motherfucker had a camera team in his house just recording him watching the Lomachenko Devin Haney fight. And then they have it where you see his reactions to everything. Not the Lomachenko Haney fight. So it was some fight. It might have been a Tyson Fury fight, but whatever it was, they just show it, and it's like, what's the purpose of this video? I'm trying to understand, like, because basically he's just sitting on his couch, and then I started seeing that particular video. It's on like a big social. It might be. Is it social? I don't know. It's like one of them big channels like Fight Hype or whatever. Like, and that video is there, and I'm looking like, I'm trying to understand, why the fuck would somebody come in and just record this man sitting on his couch watching a fight? And I thought about it, and I'm like, I see. Did y'all see the video package that they have where they're talking about Shakur Stevenson and everything I'm saying right now? You start to see that this is what he's doing. all he's doing is hyping up non-black fighters just to get that rub, and he think that that's going to work for him. But we all know what just happened with the ranking system. So, like I said, we know how they feel about him, right? Okay, that's for him to deal with and wake up and understand where he stands. But what I really wanted to talk about personally, before I saw these things, was this, and what I said about Shakur, I already saw that in him, you know. But as far as the other video with him sitting on his couch, did like who the fuck just sits and you know, for them to post that, you know, you can tell it wasn't a cell phone or whatever. Like however, it wasn't like somebody he just knew in the house. This was just him, and the video is like, it's. I'm like, why? Like, what's the purpose? But if you watch it and listen to the things he's saying and what's going on, then you look at these little video packages that they did with that same video, you will see exactly what the direction was, and he wouldn't approve of that if he thought it was something that's gonna make him look bad, right? Okay, so you don't hear him protesting and saying anything. Hey, look, man, y'all took this video and tried to make me like a sellout. Pretty much is what it looked like he's doing, without them having to edit anything. Okay, this is just what he does. Now, what I wanted to talk about personally was this, and this video was really meant to be super short, but I had to just fuck it. I didn't want to make a separate video about what I just said. So I looked at this possible fight between Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson. Now, I never know what's going to happen come fight night. And for every fight, you basically feel like a fighter should learn, not just because he was in that fight, but they go back and study the tape. They watch what was going on, what they was doing, what they could have did different, what they would like to have done different. And, you know, sharpen up. Iron sharpens iron, right? So, looking at that, okay, the way I see Devin Haney versus Shakur Stevenson is, I don't see any clear winner in hand speed or power between the two of them. Boxing IQ is, you know, it's like, I don't know. Okay, I think Shakur is a better inside fighter than Devin Haney. I think he's more comfortable in the pocket than Devin Haney is, and if Devin stays behind that jab, you know, he works effectively off his jab, mix it up to the body, and just stay on the back foot, get in when he needs to, you know, tie it when he needs to, get in, get out, that type of situation. Like, you know, each fighter fighting their own fight. I give that edge to the Shakur fighting on the inside. Overall, man, they're like even to me, you know. That fight would have to happen, and we see what happens to where it's really, well, that's how we every fight. But I mean, I don't look at either one as dominant over the other. But I do give Shakur the edge on inside fighting. Okay, but not only with Devin fighting solid from the outside, Shakur likes to come in without head movement. If you watch him, he often just comes in. He'll do that little hop step back, but when he comes in, he'll come in when he's ready to punch, but he leaves his head right on that center line. Often, people just haven't been able to make him pay for it. But if you watch him, he does it all the time. No real head movement. He just comes in. And a lot of times he'll throw his shots and just get complacent and stay there. Same thing we just saw Katie Taylor doing, and the trainer was telling her, like, hey, you have to move your head, because she was getting lit up. She was just no head movement. Same thing. So when you have two crafty fighters, it's about, to me, I think with these two, it will come down to who can make the least mistakes and make the most adjustments, because you're going to have to adjust and readjust. Okay? And basically, who can stick to their game plan. You know, and again, readjust, because both guys have the ability to adjust to what the other is doing and then do something different. So it's a chess match with those two. Okay. Devin Haney versus Tank Davis. I think Haney has to stay on the outside all night. I think he has to depend on winning on points, not a knockout. This is one of them fights type of things, you know, where Tank can take a punch, and for Haney, he just have to catch him right perfect. Like and the shot that for him that he would need to land, it's not going to be easy. Tank has very fast feet, and he has very fast hands. He knows how to put punches together. He doesn't waste punches. he observes, and what Tank can't do is it wouldn't be wise to let Haney just build up a points lead. So Tank need to do what Tank has to do, which is he basically baits you in. Tank will move away, make you think that he's respecting your punching power, trying to be careful, and then you get baited and come in trying to load up on shots when Tank is taking shots from much harder punches than Devin Haney. So he wouldn't be worried about Haney's power. And this is a fight that I don't think Tank is gonna back up unless it's just to give Haney a different look to set him up. Otherwise, Tank is coming in, but not recklessly, smart, moving, using his jab as well, using his body shots. Haney doesn't waste a lot of shots either, though. So the difference is Tank has more than one gear. Devin doesn't. Okay, meaning, see, Tank can turn up, and with that power, he can start to put that pressure. And now, even though you've been on the back foot, now he's making you punch more than you want. He's coming in, and you're doing way more than what you really want to do. And the fact of the matter is, he is a better inside fighter than Devin Haney, and it doesn't take but one good shot from Tank to turn everything around. So whereas Haney, he's gonna have to outpoint Tank and stay sharp the whole night. For 12 rounds, he's gonna have to, be smart, do whatever he has to do to adjust to what Tank is doing, and it's a tough fight. It's really a tough fight. It's tough for both guys. In a sense, for Tank, like I said, he can't just come in reckless and just, eat shots and let Haney build up points, because he may never get the chance to land a shot to knock Haney out. You can't just be so sure, oh, he's going to knock Haney out. He just may knock Haney out, We know that we heard the story that they sparred before, and it was one shot he dropped Haney with, but they also tell you that when Haney got up, he got the better of Tank. That was still a long time ago. So we don't go by that as if this is going to play a significant role in them actually fighting. And that was sparring. But just saying, and that's with 16-ounce gloves on. You understand, the headgear. So just saying, both fighters are considerably better now than they were then. So that's a fight where, like I said, Tank can turn it up. And the thing is, that power just doesn't go anywhere. So from the first to the last round, Tank can get you out of there. Whereas with Haney, it's his best interest to box and not look for the knockout. And also, don't look to try to, please the fans, thinking that, well, I'm gonna come in and mix it up, because you do that, then I feel 100% sure he's going to sleep if he does that shit. So that I wouldn't suggest. But people are sleeping on Haney's boxing skills. And I don't understand why people, it's ignorance and it's hate, because for one, you guys don't think about something. Lomachenko has had over 400 fights, amateur fights and all that, and then his, with his pro record included. So the experience that Loma has, right? Well, think about it. He was in a debatable fight, regardless to what these morons are saying about it was some whitewash type fight, but Haney held his own, right? And like I said, I don't debate or care about who people think won. That's I've never debated that in terms of going back and forth with someone. You have your opinion, I have mine, but no, this whole talk like it was some whitewash. No, well, if Loma was able to do things the way everybody was saying, and he should have knocked Devin Haney out. And the way they claim he put a beating on him, then Loma must not have power either, because Haney's face wasn't bruised all up. Had a little mark here. Loma's face was tattooed all over. So just saying. And then people, oh, that's because his skin is white and it's easier to see. Yeah, well, that's unfortunate for Loma. Definitely not going to get into all this nonsense with people going back and forth about making excuses up. But at the end of the day, Ryan Garcia, I didn't add to this list for the simple fact he is fighting at 140 right now. But in case Haney does go up to 140, well, we'll have to see what happens because Ryan Garcia is with Derek James now, and if he brings any actual improvements, if you see it, we don't know. So I would have to wait to see what Ryan is looking like in his next fight to see what improvements, what's different about Ryan. Because basically, honestly, I think Haney beats Ryan. I the Ryan before Tank Davis, the Ryan before Tank Davis, I believe Haney beats him. It's bottom line because the only thing that Ryan really had with that left hook was his power and his speed, but he never really showed a solid ring IQ. And that's another thing. Tank has a solid ring IQ. So that's what I mean. He can turn up and give you, he can turn up. He has more than one gear. Haney doesn't. Haney can box. But Haney can't decide, now let me put some zip on these punches and get him out of here. Or let me start, he can work your body. He can do these different things. But it's going to be more of a risk trying to work the body of Tank Davis because of his height. And when you throwing shots at a taller fighter to the body, you're leaving yourself open. And Tank got that kind of speed and power that you don't want to overcommit to shots. And that's what Tank is great at, making guys overcommit. And he catch them, bang. And the haters are going to say, oh, he caught me with a lucky shot. But whatever. Now, we'll wait on Ryan to see how things go. Because, like I said, I just seen Ryan as flash and flare. I didn't see any real ring IQ with Ryan, to be honest with you. Just saw him. He was able to beat the guys that he beat. But you see what happened when he got in there with Tank. So I mean, it's no coincidence, Now that leaves me to say this about Ryan as well. If Ryan had stayed at 135, and you look at who's next, and who's who at 135, he would have no reason to not fight a guy like Keyshawn Davis, or fight a guy like what's the other guy that he's stablemates with now? Anyway, it'll come to me, hopefully before I stop talking. But Frank Martin, because these guys are on the come up. They're dangerous fighters. They are low risk, high reward. But for Ryan to have the type of hype that he had, when you come back and start to rebuild, I think that it's misleading for you to come back and fight 2 or 3 meatball fighters, and then all of a sudden you're back in the title picture. You beat a guy that's hungry, guys that's in your same age range, and you beat a guy like Keyshawn Davis, you beat a guy like Frank Martin. That's saying a lot. Now to the fans that feel like, but nobody knows them, they're not that's not the point. We're talking about the skill level, what they bring to the table. Those are 2 dangerous fighters. So that's a guy that's like one of the 2 of the guys that, at least one of them, you'd have to come back to say, even if you fought 2 meatballs, which for me, I don't understand this shit, man, with all this, I get it that, people try to bring their fighters back, try to get their confidence back. I get it. But it's one of these things where it's just like, man, you train, you fight. This is what you do for a living. I don't understand all this easy touch, especially off one loss. But you put your body through grueling training camps just to fight a meatball. That's wear and tear on your body. You don't know how much of that shit you carried into your future. So life after boxing, you walk around shaking and shit and all that. And you did all that, banging your body up to fight some meatballs. I mean, it just happens, man. I think they need to do a better psychological job in training to get the fighters back on board. Because to be honest with you, when they give you these soft touches, it really doesn't help you. And I don't see how beating a C-class fighter can get your confidence up going into another fight with an A-class or a B-class fighter. I just don't see that. I never understood this. My whole thing is your mind is just as strong as your muscle. That's the strongest muscle you have. I don't care how hard you punch, how fast you are, how fast your feet are, your hands, whatever. If you don't have a solid ring IQ, and you don't have a heart and a determination, you're done. Let's look at Mike Tyson. I forget the guy name that retired him, okay? But this was after the Danny Williams fight. Mike Tyson said some key words in that post-interview. Mike Tyson said, I don't have the heart for this anymore. I'm just doing it for the money. Which was ironic. That it was funny to me how people thought when Mike was coming back talking about this Triller thing and all that, and they was in his, whoever was training him was talking about how Mike would come back and be champ of the world. That's how great Mike is looking, and people believe that shit. I'm like, listen, Mike Tyson's trying to sell a fight. And then we found out Roy Jones was his opponent. Now, mind you, just saying, it could have been a Shannon Briggs. It could have been a Vitaly Vladimir Klitschko. It could have been an actual real heavyweight. It could have been. He chose Roy Jones. And all people wanted to see that fight was for just to see. They just wanted to see how fast Mike was going to knock Roy Jones out. And if you understood what went on, you knew you didn't just see a real fight. This is two legends that's doing an exhibition. And the fact that there was no headgear involved in all that and 10-ounce gloves, people thought they were going to actually see a real fight. Even if you thought that, once you watched it, if you thought you saw a real fight, and you truly don't know shit about boxing, and it's evident because in the comment sections, you saw, oh, that was a robbery. Come on, man. Ain't no way. That was no draw. Roy didn't do shit but hold. And I'm like, you guys, for one, you shouldn't be butthurt. I don't understand us getting angry and upset arguing over some grown-ass men. I don't care about it that much. I really don't. But if you sat there and watched that fight and thought you actually watched a real fight, oh, Mike was holding back on him. They both held back on each other. That shit was discussed, man. Look, we two legends. We gonna go in there, go through the motions, man. Just trying to entertain the fans. They gonna, just the fact that we in the ring fighting each other is enough. That's gonna get them into it, and we just here to have some fun. It didn't even like a sparring match. It just like two guys sitting home bored, nothing to do, just put gloves on and just slapping each other and grabbing. I mean, Mike did all that rushing, swing. It's times he got in. It's like if he let his hands go, he could have landed a shot, and he wouldn't. It's time Mike could swing, overcommit, Roy slip, and nothing. So it was, and you watched it and you knew, I know what I saw. And come on, and they both, it's just so happened that it was a draw and they both received belts. Okay, well, we got 2 belts just in case it was a draw. Come on, y'all. So anyway, just saying that would be, in my opinion, a good test for Ryan Garcia, simply because he lost the fight. So I don't believe a guy goes and gets stopped like that, especially the way he lost, and then all of a sudden you're right back in the title picture due to popularity, because people in boxing will say, hey, it's good for the sport. Well, if the improvements aren't there, then it's not good for Ryan, because then it means he'll go in there and get crushed again. So if you're fighting lower opposition to rebuild, how is that iron sharpening iron, right? So, which on the other hand, I don't see a Keyshawn Davis or Frank Martin getting himself in the ring with a Shakur Stevenson or Tank Davis, not just yet. They haven't really done enough in terms of this being seen as a big fight for these guys. We're talking about 2 undefeated fighters that are at the top. Now, after they fight each other, if they fought one of them, yeah. Because now it's like, okay, think about it. Tank could say, I beat Ryan. Ryan went up to 140. Me and Tiafimo didn't get a chance to fight. We never fought. He went to 140. All right? Now, Devin Haney, if he goes to 140, then the only big name left is Shakur Stevenson. And it's not even a big name, the best quality opponent. Okay? The next A-class fighter, put it that way, is him. So after that, yeah, Frank Martin, Keyshawn Davis, either one of them. But if Devin Haney should stay, same thing. I don't see Devin Haney wanting to fight a Frank Martin or Keyshawn Davis before he fight a Tank Davis or Shakur Stevenson. You see, so that type of situation. I guarantee you Lomachenko won't fight Frank Martin or Keyshawn Davis. I guarantee you he won't fight them. And that's what people are going to say. Oh, but come on, they not on Loma's. Look, Loma don't even have that many pro fights. He had a whole lot of amateur fights. But he don't have a whole lot of pro fights. He's like, what, 20 fights in now? So, just saying. And you know why. Like I said, it's high risk, low reward. And he's not going to fight those guys. So for those guys, they're in a position of trying to find that signature fight that people will take notice of. And so that's what I wanted to really talk about and looking at Devin Haney's situation as the man at 135. And then too, you got a guy like George Kambosos that's still out there that he just came off 2 back-to-back losses to Devin Haney. Now he's talking about that he wants to fight Tank Davis. But my thing is, listen, bro, boxing got to stop with this bullshit. You beat Teofimo, yeah. You lost on your very first title defense, and you lost, the rematch against Haney both times in your country on your terms. How do you just walk back into a title fight? Now, why don't you fight a Frank Martin or fight a Keyshawn Davis? And you're going to get the same thing. High risk, low reward. So who do you think Judge Kambosos is going to call out? He's going to try to call the name of all the top guys. And like I said, because of what they just did to Shakur Stevenson by stripping his mandatory position away and making him number 2 and making Loma number 1, you might just get that as, whether it's a title eliminator or however it's going to go, you might get them fighting for the title because they don't have to pick Shakur Stevenson. So part of my point too is this will be a very opportune time for the powers that be to get Keyshawn Davis and I don't know why I keep Frank Martin, get them in the mix. And this is what boxing has been doing wrong for so long. You have talented fighters that you refuse to give light to. And until they start to do that, you're going to always have that problem. That you have 4 guys, 3 guys, maybe 5 sometimes that stands out in the division. But you have really about 8 to 10 altogether. But 5 of them are not being looked at. And that's part of what you see happening right now. So instead of trying to recycle fighters that's done lost fights already, just keep them in the mix. Not saying throw George Kambosos to the trash, no. But saying you have guys that haven't had a shot, and I mean at just a quality top fighter yet. George Kambosos, I mean, it's not like he's some superstar either. These guys are not above fighting Keyshawn Davis and Frank Martin. So, put those guys in the mix. We see Jerron Boots Ennis going through the same thing right now. So this is where you have to look at every division and you look at these fighters and you wonder why nobody knows who they are. It's because of the way the fight's being promoted. I mean, strawweights, flyweights, featherweights. Nobody knows these guys. That's why you'll have one guy that stands out in those divisions, but they don't have international popularity. Nobody knows who they are. They don't promote them. And I remember someone even said, who wants to see a 110-pound guy fight? Well, then why the fuck have the division? if nobody wants to see them fight, why? You understand what I mean? So just saying. But yeah, and that's true. That's true. People really not interested in those little guys. That's just the facts. But they need to do a better job at that. And so when I'm looking at 135, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm including Keyshawn Davis and Frank Martin in that mix in terms of their skill in that ring. And you never know how good someone is until they get in there with a quality opponent. And I'm saying it's about time that they start putting these guys in the mix. So with this upcoming card with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, hey, hopefully there will be a Jerron Ennis on that card. Hopefully there'll be a Isaac Pitbull Cruz on that card. Hopefully it'll be a Frank Martin or a Keyshawn Davis on that card. And they need to be there with quality opponents. And that's the whole thing. So you take a guy like George Kambosos, who hasn't fought since he's lost to Devin Haney, and then all this time goes by, and the first name he starts talking about is Tank Davis. Like, bruh, come on, really? Now, it's not that I wouldn't mind seeing that fight, but after Tank Davis puts him to sleep, it's like, then what? Does he then call out Shakur Stevenson? Like, no. These guys have to start to, rebuild, but rebuild with quality opponents. I'm not into this whole soft touch just because you lose one goddamn fight or you get to a point where you at a crossroads. I can understand you. I don't mean when I say a lesser opponent, I'm not talking about fighting trash. I'm not talking about fighting some meatball. I'm talking at least a B-. Not no fucking C+, C- fighters. The lowest of B minus. That's what I mean. I'm not talking about no fucking, some guy that some guy that you're supposed to walk through. And a lot of times that can backfire simply because you basically prepared in a way where this guy brings nothing to me. So I'm gonna go in there and look spectacular. And all of a sudden, even though they're C plus fighter, C class fighter, they do certain things that you might be not even be prepared for. You don't even know much about this fighter, right? Just say. And who really wants to come out to watch you fight a C class fighter anyway? Certain fighters can get away with and have been, but it is what it is. Anyway, talk to me in the comment section. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all on the next video.